to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
You're watching ASEAN in Focus. I'm Alma Angeles. We're coming to you live from Manila and Thailand. Hello, Gila.
Hello, good afternoon, Alma, and good afternoon to all our viewers. I'm Gila Pablo from Thailand Bureau, bringing you the latest news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines. The United Nations urged Singapore to halt the imminent execution of 2 men held for drug offenses and furthermore end its use of the death penalty altogether.
The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, is preparing several repatriation arrangements for Filipinos in Ukraine amid the ongoing tensions and invasion fears in the Eastern European state.
And the Philippines is now at low risk from the coronavirus pandemic as more people get vaccinated and hospital admissions drop.
Cambodia is delaying an internet gateway that had raised concerns around privacy and free speech, halting its planned midweek implementation due to COVID-19 related disruptions.
First in our news, the United Nations urged Singapore to halt the imminent executions of 2 men held for drug offenses and furthermore end its use of the death penalty altogether. The UN Rights Office voiced alarm at the cause of Pausi Jeffredin and Roslan Bakar, who were both arrested in 2008 and convicted 2 years later on the drug trafficking charges. The men have been on death row for the past 12 years and were reportedly informed only last Wednesday that they would be executed 1 week later, February 16. Take a look.
We urge the government of Singapore to halt the imminent execution of 2 men who have been jailed over the past 14 years on drug offenses. Roslan bin Bakar and Pausi bin Jeffredin were arrested in 2008 and convicted in 2010 on charges of drug trafficking. The 2 men have remained on death row for the past 12 years and were reportedly informed only a week ago, on the 9th of February, of their imminent execution, which is scheduled for tomorrow, the 16th of February. There are also concerns that one or both of the men have intellectual disabilities. The use of the death penalty for drug-related offenses is incompatible with international human rights law. The death penalty can only be imposed for the most serious crimes, which is interpreted as crimes of extreme gravity involving intentional killing. We call on the government to commute their sentences and to reform Singapore's legislation to bring an end to the imposition of the death penalty.
Amnesty International Singapore researcher Rachel Choa Howard agreed, saying the planned executions this week were appalling. Moreover, the death penalty has not been proven to be an effective deterrent, while some facing execution, as well as their families, have suffered a range of human rights violations. OHCHR called on the government to commute their sentences and bring an end to the death penalty. The Department of Foreign Affairs is preparing several repatriation arrangements for Filipinos in Ukraine amid the ongoing tensions and invasion fears in the Eastern European state. The DFA is in close coordination with its foreign service posts in the region on arrangements to bring home the overseas Filipinos in Ukraine who may wish to return to the Philippines. The situation at Ukraine's border remains fluid, and security conditions could change at any moment, it said in a statement on Tuesday. The DFA noted that discussions are ongoing with the Filipino community as well as other governments and international partners to assist Filipino nationals who wish to relocate to more secure areas. And this includes the European Union to ensure the safe passage of Filipinos across EU borders. According to Filipino community group United Filipino Global Ukraine, the Philippine Embassy in Warsaw already advised them to leave the European state while they can. Filipinos in Ukraine are advised to contact the Philippine Embassy in Poland as early as possible. And there are around 380 Filipinos currently residing in Ukraine, according to the latest data from the DFA. An Indonesian court sentenced a teacher to life in prison for the rape of 13 students in a case that has drawn national attention to sexual abuse in the country's religious boarding schools. Harry Wirawan, 36, was found guilty of raping 13 female students, all minors, and impregnating at least 8 of them by Bandung District Court in West Java. Let's listen in.
Menyatakan terdakwa Heri Wirawan alias Heri bin Dede tersebut di atas terbukti secara sah dan meyakinkan bersalah melakukan tindak pidana dengan sengaja melakukan kekerasan, memaksa anak melakukan persetubuhan dengannya yang dilakukan pendidik menimbulkan korban lebih dari 1 orang beberapa kali, menjatuhkan pidana kepada terdakwa. Oleh karena itu, dengan pidana penjara seumur hidup.
Ada beberapa tuntutan kami ya yang belum dikabulkan ya. Dan tentu kami juga akan mempelajari ya secara menyeluruh ya pertimbangan-pertimbangan dan putusan majelis hakim dari salinan lengkapnya ya pada kami, maka kami pada kesempatan ini menyatakan pikir-pikir ya dalam jangka waktu 7 hari ya untuk menentukan sikap apakah kami menerima putusan majelis hakim itu atau kami mengajukan upaya hukum berupa banding.
The revelation sparked national outrage, with a senior government official saying President Joko Widodo has paid special attention to the case. The pattern of abuse came to light when the family of a female student reported Wirawan to the police for raping and impregnating their teenage daughter last year. During the trial, it was revealed he had raped the children, many from poor families, attending the school on scholarships over 5 years. Prosecutors requested chemical castration and the death penalty for the accused, who asked the judge for leniency to allow him to raise his children. Wirawan arrived in court in handcuffs and kept his head down as Judge Johannes Purnomo Adi sentenced him to life in prison. The court said restitution for the victims will be paid by the government.
Interpol has issued 2 red notice arrest warrants for a pair of Canadians over the suspected murder of an Indian gangster outside a luxury villa on Thailand's Phuket Island. Jimmy Slice Sandhu, whose nickname comes from a distinctive scar on his face, was gunned down on February 5 after having flown in on a private jet from Malaysia last month, according to Thai police and local media reports. Following a Thai police investigation, issued non-binding arrest warrants or red notices for Canadian citizens Matthew Leander Ovid Dupre and Jean-Carl Laframpe, both 36, in connection with Sandhu's murder. I quote, "I think this case is unique," according to Kimari Masiri, commander of the Foreign Affairs Investigation of the Royal Thai Police, confirming the Interpol notices issued late Monday. I quote, "This is not just a hit and run. They have masterminded it. They would have someone who supported them in Canada and Thailand," he told AFP, adding the investigation into the death of the 32-year-old was ongoing. He said police were gathering biological and ballistic evidence in addition to investigating how the gunman obtained weapons. The 2 suspects, described by Interpol as armed and dangerous, left Thailand on February 6, according to the international agency's notice. Police obtained CCTV footage showing 2 unidentified men jumping from bushes near the beachside villa to open fire on Sandu and before fleeing into the night. Interpol also said the suspects taped a GPS device to the victim's car ahead of the shooting. Masiri said Thai officers were working with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The Philippine Army's Special Force Regiment Airborne SFRA and the U.S. Army Special Forces formally opened the 3-week Balance Piston 22-1 exercise that would improve responsibility between the two services at Fort Ramon Magsaysay, Nueva Ecija on February 14. Spokesperson Colonel Cerces Trinidad in a statement Wednesday said the Balance Piston 22-1 aims to test and validate plans, procedures, and concepts to enhance collaboration and interoperability between Filipino and U.S. Special Forces. He said, I quote, the joint combined exchange training Balance Piston 22-1 is an annual bilateral exercise that provides an avenue to Filipino and U.S. Special Forces to learn and exchange tactics, techniques, procedures, and best practices, end of quote. The exercise, which ends on March 7, will focus on human rights and law of armed conflict, combat management of marksmanship skills, small unmanned aerial systems tactics, techniques and procedures, command and control structure, mission planning, unconventional warfare subject matter, experts exchange, crisis action planning, fundamentals of reconnaissance, find, fix, finish, exploit, analyze, disseminate, urban reconnaissance, tactical combat, casualty care, and culmination expert exercise. Information from a former rebel resulted in the discovery of a temporary hideout and stash of various ammunitions owned by the Southern Front of the Communist Party of the Philippines, New People's Army National Democratic Front or CPP-NPA-NDF in a barangay Onop, Migao, Iloilo on Sunday. One of the 6 rebels who surrendered after the encounter with government troops on December 1, 2021 revealed the location, said Lieutenant Colonel Harold Garcia, commander of the Philippine Army's 61st Infantry Battalion, with jurisdiction over the area where the hideout was discovered. Barangay Onop is about 3 to 4 kilometers away from Barangay Animodias, the site of the December 1 encounter, and is believed to be one of their hideouts around 2 months before the encounter. He said they expect more rebels to surrender this month since other members of the armed movement are on low morale following the December 1 operation. Currently, Garcia said they could no longer feel the presence of the CPP-NPA because they have already dispersed. Cambodia is delaying an internet gateway that had raised concerns around privacy and free speech, halting its planned midweek implementation to COVID-19 related disruptions, a government official said Tuesday. Activists and UN rights experts had called for a halt to the project, which will funnel all web traffic through a state-controlled entry point. Saving it would have a devastating effect on freedom of expression and privacy.
ខ្ញុំយល់ថាការចាប់ខ្លួនខ្ញុំហ្នឹងគឺគេអត់ចង់ឲ្យមានសកម្មភាពដូចជាការបញ្ចេញមតិទៅលើសង្គមទៅលើបញ្ហាផ្សេងៗដែលកើតឡើងហើយមួយទៀតខ្ញុំគិតថាការខាត់ខ្លួនខ្ញុំគឺជាការជះ ឥទ្ធិពលមួយឬក៏គេហៅថាចាប់ដើម្បីពមៀនដល់អ្នកដទៃអញ្ចឹងបងនៅក្នុងស្រុកខ្មែរសិទ្ធិសេរីភាពក្នុងការបញ្ចេញមតិក្នុងការប្រើប្រាស់សិទ្ធិរបស់ខ្លួននឹងចង់បង្ហាញប្រាប់ឬក៏ផុសឬក៏និយាយអីចឹងទៅគឺមានអារម្មណ៍ថារដ្ឋបិទខ្លាំងមែនទែនគឺពិបាកហើយព្រោះមានបញ្ហាអីតិចគឺចាប់ចោតចាប់ចងអីចឹងទៅអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំយល់ថាវាយើងពិបាកក្នុងការធ្វើមតិអស់ហ្នឹងបង
So it just gives the government more power and more legitimate power to do so in terms of surveillance, and it would increase self-censorship among citizens, among advocates, and we can learn already during the pandemic, online have been quite an important way of communication. It signals us that yes, the government have watched out the power of social media, and the government would want to control the online space as they do so on the offline space. The step that the government have come up with restrictive legislation with the arrest or charge against online user is something adding to what have been happening already. When people express on the street. So the more people become fully aware through social media, the more people engage through social media, it poses the risk for the government. So in order to curb that risk, of course, the control has to be applied.
The implementation of National Internet Gateway will be postponed due to the disruption caused by the spreading of COVID-19, according to Visothi, Secretary of State for the Telecommunications Ministry, told AFP. The gateway, due to come into effect February 16, appeared to be taking Cambodia down a path bitten by Phnom Penh's major economic partner, China, which keeps the online world behind a great firewall and blocks major Western platforms such as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Earlier on Tuesday, the Cambodian Foreign Affairs Department issued a statement attacking foreign media reporting critical of the scheme. A spokesperson insisted it was being set up in a transparent manner and that consultations had been held with experts and relevant institutions.
Meanwhile, the Philippine Coast Guard officer in charge, CG Vice Admiral Eduardo Fabricante, and Israel's defense attaché, Mr. Raz Shabtai, presided over the remote-controlled weapon station, or RCW's, capability demonstration at the vicinity waters of Mariveles, Bataan on February 11. 6 PCG multi-role response vessels, or MRRVs, participated in the said initiative to test fire the newly installed state-of-the-art weapon system. Utilizing government-to-government transactions, the PCG and Israel's Ministry of Defense collaborated on the acquisition of the RCWs in December 2018. Department of Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade fully supported this initiative. The said system, the first of its kind acquisition in PCG history, aims to improve the Coast Guard's delivery of public service, particularly in the conduct of maritime security and law enforcement operations in the vast waters of the Philippines towards combating piracy and the proliferation of lawless elements at sea. And the news continues here on ASEAN in Focus. We'll be right back.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. May lalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Welcome to Mobile Legends!
Welcome back. Indonesia reported a record number of new COVID cases on Tuesday as the Omicron variant spread across the Southeast Asian archipelago. The number of daily infections topped 57,000 according to the government's COVID-19 task force, surpassing the previous peak of 56,757 cases recorded in July last year during the country's Delta wave. The national figure for positive cases in this third wave increased sharply and faster compared to the second wave, according to task force spokesman Wiku Adasimitu during a press briefing. But the death rate is far lower than during the Delta surge, when Indonesia reported around 2,000 fatalities a day. The country was severely impacted by the pandemic last year, with hospitals running out of beds and medical oxygen to treat patients. Indonesia reported 134 new deaths from COVID on Tuesday, while the hospital bed occupancy rate is around 33% compared to more than 77% during the Delta explosion. The government this month imposed stricter restrictions on public facilities, offices, malls, and restaurants in several cities, but has progressively shortened the quarantine period for vaccinated travelers coming in from abroad. Meanwhile, hundreds of people flocked to a football stadium at the outskirts of Indonesian capital for the COVID-19 vaccine boosters, as the country has seen an increase in Omicron infections. First, let's listen in.
Sekarang itu apalagi sudah ada virus Omicron, jadi saya was-was lah. Jadi sebaiknya ya harus vaksin untuk menjaga kesehatan kita, apalagi di usia seperti saya sekarang ini.
Ya harapannya ya mudah-mudahan virus corona udah nggak ada lagi, udah nggak kayak dulu lagi. Mudah-mudahan juga Omicron udah nggak ada lagi di sini.
While Indonesia also began testing a homegrown COVID vaccine on humans after getting the green light from the drug regulator as the country faces a rising wave of virus cases. Research on the Merah Putih, or red-white vaccine named after the colors of the Indonesian national flag, is led by the Airlangga University and Biotis Pharmaceutical Indonesia. The project has suffered delays since starting in 2020, but authorities are now hoping to authorize its use by the middle of this year if the trials are successful.
The Philippines is now at low risk from the coronavirus pandemic as more people get vaccinated and hospital admissions drop, President Rodrigo Duterte's spokesman said Tuesday. The country last week reopened to foreign tourists from the first time in 2 years, though some health restrictions remain as campaigning for the May 9 elections starts with political rallies seen as potential super spreader events.
Maliban sa aking mga nabanggit, iniulat din ni DOH Secretary Francisco Duque III na nasa 4 na rehiyon na lamang ang nananatiling nasa moderate risk, habang ang ating healthcare utilization rates ay nasa low to moderate risk levels.
Cases have averaged about 3,600 daily in the past week as the number of fully vaccinated people climbed to around 56% of the population, health officials said. After lengthy lockdowns which ravaged the economy and put millions out of work, the government is now planning for a lifting of all restrictions, Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere told reporters without giving a time frame.
We are preparing to transition already. So kung makikita po natin ngayon ang National Capital Region, if we use our metrics of case trends and healthcare utilization, low risk na po talaga ang NCR. Pero syempre, kailangan i-prepare po natin yung environment kung saan pag nag-ease tayo ng restrictions, it would be safe for our population, no? Pag lumabas na po sila. And that would be yung sinasabi po ni CABSEC na dapat lahat tayo magtutulong-tulong. Minimum public health standards pa rin foremost. Kailangan not just people, but also establishments, both public and private, should provide safe spaces for our people. So dyan ho papasok yung pagsunod din ng establishmento, pagsunod ng public spaces katulad ng mga sabihin natin churches, katulad po ng mga parks for example, katulad ng mga eskwelahan, nasusunod sila dun sa mga safety protocols na meron tayo katulad ng adequate ventilation, hand washing stations, compliant dapat sa pagbabakuna at saka compliant doon sa mga iba pang standards na atin pong pinapatupad. So ngayon po tayo po ay nasa alert level 2 in spite na pwede na mag-alert level 1 dahil naghahanda pa ho ang gobyerno kung paano po natin itatransition sa alert level 1 ang ating mga lugar so that lahat po tayo prepared kapag nagkaroon na tayo ng easing of restrictions.
The Philippine government gets a boost in its vaccination and anti-coronavirus campaign as the Korean government on Tuesday donated 34 refrigerated trucks and 4 service vans valued at $1.5 million. The Korean embassy in Manila said the latest aid is to support the Philippines' national immunization program, especially the government's coronavirus disease or COVID-19 inoculation efforts. The vehicles will be deployed to various Department of Health regional offices through the Center for Health Development to support the cold chain transportation of vaccines. Korean Ambassador Kim In-kul said during the turnover ceremony at the DOH office that with the donation of these cold chain trucks and vans, we are expecting to make a further contribution to the national immunization program.
To Vietnam now, where Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh asked Pfizer to deliver 22 million vaccine doses for children from 5 to under 12 years of age at the earliest and try to complete the contract no later than May this year. According to government-run website BGP News, the government chief made the request during his phone conversation with Pfizer chairman and CEO Albert Bourla on Tuesday. The move aims to help Vietnam soon reopen schools safely amid complicated evolution of COVID-19 pandemic, according to Mr. Pham. Pham also asked Pfizer to regularly share information on the development of its new vaccines with Vietnam, affirming the government stands ready to create most favorable conditions for Pfizer to cooperate with the Southeast Asian country into the pharmacy sector. Mr. Pham took the occasion to extend thanks to Pfizer and Chairman and CEO Bourla for having supplied 51 million vaccine doses to Vietnam. To date, nearly 96% of children aged 12 to 17 received at least one dose of Pfizer vaccine, and nearly 90% of them were fully vaccinated against COVID, according to Pham. And we'll take a short break and we'll be back with more news here on ASEAN in Focus. Stay tuned.
Maraming mga tao ang gustong marinig ang pinaka.
Hindi natin ko totoo, pero usually hindi ako naniniwala ako sa mga ganito.
Pinakamabilis magbago ng opinyon.
You've been out for 9 years.
What time is it?
It's 6:30.
5 more minutes.
Pinakatamad gumising.
Pangit tayo.
Sabi ni mama mo,
Pangit ako?
oo.
Okay, fine.
Okay lang.
Ready na ba kayo sa ating laro? Maling a color.
Ano mo, G? Lexit na lang, boy.
No way, madam. No. Okay lang.
Akong bumili niyan eh.
Ikaw ang bumili.
Funniest nakaball videos.
Hello everyone, my name is Andrew. I'm David. And we are Aster. Please catch us on Letters and Music, on air and online.
This coming Saturday, February 19, 1 to 2 p.m.
Only here on Net 25.
Panoorin ang Taragim agad-agad ngayong linggo, alas 7 ng gabi, kasama ang always ready to make you happy na sina Berwin Mayley, Donna Cariaga, Gary Lim, and Tuesday Vargas. Promise, masaya ito.
Sana ingatan mo lang, baka kasi mag-uho.
This is your turista vlogger. Aray! Uy! Uy! Huli ka!
Hello? Ano? Gusto mo na? O di break mo?
Boss! Ay, kumabot.
Abangan ang mga istorya ng pagbangon sa Season 2 ng Lingap Stories tuwing linggo, alas 5 ng hapon sa Net 25.
Welcome back. Asian markets rebounded and oil held steep losses Wednesday on hopes that Russia will not invade Ukraine after Moscow said some of its troops on the country's border had started pulling back. While not verified, the claims by Russia provided some much-needed relief for investors who had grown increasingly fearful of a conflict in Eastern Europe after Western powers warned for days that an attack was imminent. The news also helped traders brush off another forecast-busting surge in the U.S. Producer Price Index that some warned could indicate another painful jump in consumer inflation down the line. All three Wall Street indexes jumped after 3 days of hefty losses, which were also fanned by inflation worries. And Asia built on the gains in early exchanges. Tokyo piled on more than 2%, while Hong Kong, Seoul, Wellington, Taipei, and Manila jumped more than 1% each. Shanghai, Sydney, and Jakarta were also up, though Singapore inched down. Meanwhile, Myanmar's junta dismissed Japanese drinks giant Kirin's decision to exit the country following a coup last year, saying it would be easy to substitute. Kirin on Monday became the latest foreign company to announce it was pulling out of Myanmar, following British American Tobacco and energy giants Total Energies and Chevron. It said its decision came after months of wrangling following the February 2021 coup, which prompted the company to express concerns about human rights and eventually seek to end its involvement in Myanmar Brewery Limited. Human rights groups have pressed foreign companies to rethink their activities in Myanmar following the February 2021 coup and a subsequent crackdown, which, according to local monitoring groups, has left more than 1,500 people dead.
The government has allotted at least a total of 3 billion pesos budget for fuel subsidy under the General Appropriations Act of 2022, Malacanang said on Tuesday. Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles, the acting presidential spokesperson, made this comment after oil companies implemented another big-time price hike for the 7th straight week, given supply constraints in the global market. Let's watch this.
Ang budget law natin for 2022, which is the General Appropriations Act of 2022, mayroon pong mga nakalaan dyan na para sa mga fuel subsidy, no? So, there's one provision na fuel subsidy program na 2.5B under the DOTR. At nakalagay po dito sa GAA or the General Appropriations Act na 2.5B is appropriated and to be used to provide financial assistance and fuel vouchers to qualified public utility vehicles, taxi, tricycle, full-time ride-hailing delivery service drivers nationwide as identified and validated by the LTFRB, provided and when the average Dubai crude oil price based on mean of Platts Singapore or MOPS for 3 months reaches or exceeds $80 per barrel. Ang implementation ng programang ito ay subject to the guidelines issued by DOTR, DOE, and DBM. So may conditions set, no, before ma-trigger itong tinatawag na fuel subsidy.
In separate advisories, Caltex, Clean Fuel, Petrogas, PTT Philippines, Sea Oil, and Shell said they will increase diesel prices by 1.05 pesos per liter and gasoline by 1.20 pesos per liter on Tuesday. Caltex, Sea Oil, and Shell will also hike kerosene prices by 0.65 per liter. Since the price adjustments last week, local gasoline prices have already increased by 6.75 pesos per liter, 9.15 pesos per liter for diesel, and 8.45 pesos per liter for kerosene. Dominic Lumabi sits on the computer in his Manila bedroom, feeding his puppers fish-like cartoon NFT characters against others. But this is not just a game. He is earning cryptocurrency to support his family during the pandemic. The source of his income is Axie Infinity, a blockchain-based play-to-earn game that exploded in popularity in developing nations such as the Philippines, and COVID-19 destroyed jobs and forced to stay home. Its fans, financial backers, and creators, Vietnam-based Sky Mavis, say it is a revolutionary step towards the future of the internet. Detractors warn the game is a house of cards, some likening it to a fraud scheme driven by hype and speculation. Let's watch this.
At first, I was skeptic because I thought it was a Ponzi scam or what, because you're just going to play. And then they said you're going to earn 30,000 per month. You will just play 2 hours to 3 hours. It started to provide us the income that we need. I was able to pay my outstanding balance on my internet bill, was able to give money for my parent to buy grocery for our food, and most importantly, I was able to pay for my sister's enrollment and tuition fee.
Early this year, we found out that you can actually earn from playing games. So with the amount of time that we spent on playing, we wanted to obviously earn. So we looked around and we found Axie Infinity. I think most of them are mature enough to realize that if they really want to continuously earn and gain income from this, they really need to sort of pay taxes. I think it's a good thing. And the reason why is they're looking at NFT gaming now as a profession. Because if they don't recognize something or if they don't recognize something, there may be a possibility that they can ban all of these things, right?
An Axie is an NFT, a unique non-fungible token with a particular set of abilities and characteristics. Like NFT pieces of art, they are stored on the blockchain, a digital ledger that cannot be changed. Axies can be bought, sold, or rented to other players. Owners can also breed them to create new Axies that provide more value. About 35% of Axie Infinity traffic and the biggest share of its 2.5 million daily active users comes from the Philippines, which high proficiency in English, strong gaming culture, and widespread smartphone usage have fueled its popularity, Sky Mavis said. In Axie Infinity, players participate in battles using colorful blob-like axes and are mainly rewarded smooth love potion that can be exchanged for cryptocurrency or cash, or invested back into the game's virtual world, Lunesia.
So the game idea is pretty simple. It got a lot of inspiration from actually the real world. Some first ideas regarding Axies we got from our pets at home. I think the major reason that Axie got familiar with people in developed countries, that's because the basic, the average salary there is not so high. So just by playing games and I think convert by playing and converting your time into a quantified value, you can actually earn some money from it. Normally, people just see games as a place for them to have fun. But nowadays, with the help of the blockchain tech, we have a real economy inside the game.
But there is a catch. To play the game, players first have to purchase at least 3 Axies. An Axie is an NFT, a unique non-fungible token with a particular set of abilities and characteristics. Like NFT pieces of art, they are stored on the blockchain, a digital ledger that cannot be changed. Axies can be bought. At the peak of the game's growth last year, a starter team of Axies could cost hundreds of dollars, far beyond the reach of aspiring players in poorer countries. When AFP accessed the game's marketplace on February 9, the cheapest Axies cost $37 each, putting the cost of a basic team at $111. However, players who spend more get better Axies, giving them a better chance of winning battles to earn SLPs and from some activities, the game's other crypto token, AXS. Those with the capital to assemble more lucrative Axie teams have set up guilds and scholarships, profit-sharing systems where players are charged a percentage of their earnings. The owner's take can reportedly go as high as 30%.
The risk that I see is if there is ever a macroeconomic shock
to the system, these end consumers will stop wanting to buy Axie. And again, it's either the tokens or the actual Axies inside of the game. When that happens, all of the people who have been spending their days playing Axie, leveling up Axies, will be at risk of no longer having an end consumer. Essentially, every play-to-earn game is a house of cards that's basically fighting against the current of when the world economy or the US economy will turn south into a bear market. So that's every play-to-earn game, including the thousands of others that are popping up every week. Those people are benefiting now. You know, they're earning an income now, and so it's on them to take the money they're earning and use it in a smart way, knowing that at some point that source of income can dry up.
For me personally, as long as I can earn maybe like 100 pesos or 1,000 a month, again, my perspective is still a profit. It's still another source of income.
Exhibitors at the Singapore Air Show say they're optimistic the sector will recover as the event opened on Tuesday with smaller numbers compared to previous years. Let's listen in.
I think that COVID restrictions created the premises for the absence of some players this year. But my personal impression is that the big players are here, and there is, in any case, very good attendance to the show.
Although there's a drop, I think when I visit the exhibitor booth, there are some positivity feeling that there will be some recovery coming up. Big players is exhibiting the show. Big players like Airbus, Boeing. I'm glad that they are in the show. So it shows us they are positive. I mean, give us a positive feedback that the aerospace market will be recovering.
The pandemic, we were eager to travel the world, meet the potential customers, and Singapore Air Show. I've been here in the earlier air shows at Singapore. They are really good to build the relationship and to see potential customers and to revive what we have left behind before the pandemic and to see.
With Singapore facing a fierce Omicron virus wave, this year's air show is a muted affair with about 600 companies taking part, down from more than 900 at the last edition in 2020. Participants are required to take daily virus tests, while the public have been barred from attending a series of aerial displays as authorities look to cut infection risks, with the aerobatics being live-streamed instead. Nevertheless, key players such as Boeing, Airbus, and engine maker Rolls-Royce will still be attending, and the show will be a rare opportunity to hold in-person meetings with customers to drum up new business. Data highlights the slow pace of recovery. The region's airlines carried 16.7 million passengers last year, just 4.4% of volume seen in 2019, according to the Association of Asia-Pacific Airlines. While the U.S. and Europe have eased restrictions and demand has rebounded, Asia lags far behind, with foreign tourists barred and mandatory quarantine still in place in many countries. There are positive signs, though, for this year. Several places such as Australia, New Zealand, and the Philippines lifted bans on overseas visitors, but industry figures warn there's still a long way to go. Thank you very much, Gila, for keeping me company today. Welcome back. It's been a long time.
Yes, Alma, that's right. And thank you also for having me today. And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. And stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Gina Pablo, and we live in interesting times.
And we'll see you back tomorrow, same time, same place, here on ASEAN in Focus. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in interesting times.